Stuart Wilde is an author, lecturer, one of the real characters of the self-help human potential movement. He has written 15 books, including the very successful Taos Quintet, which are considered classics in their own genre. In his latest release, God's Gladiators, Wilde challenges all of us like never before. He's also had a big effect on the movement for greater awareness. Over a period of 20 years, he came to be known as the teacher's teacher because of the influence that he has had on other writers and lecturers in the field. This is going to be a fascinating night tonight on Coast to Coast AM. Hello, Stuart. How are you?
I'm very well. Thank you, George.
My pleasure indeed. How long have you been involved in this field, the field of consciousness, and just really, I think, of looking at other avenues of our own dimensions?
29 years.
How'd that happen?
I don't know. When I was young, I was raised in the English system, the whole sort of class system and the public school system, which of course are private schools.
Yeah.
And I went through all of that terrible restriction, and it was the restriction of England that made me want to fight my way out and become free. And that's how I got into mind and trance states and transdimensional worlds and just the fight for personal freedom.
Did you find that as you began to learn that you got better and better at learning this and even accomplishing some of these events that you've done?
Yes, I did, George. I made one particular thing my expertise, and that's the bioelectric body that we walk around in, which is sometimes called the etheric. And I really studied that mainly. Of course, I studied all the books and alchemy and, all the various philosophies and whatever as I went along as well. But it was the etheric that taught me pretty much everything.
Now,
and then I taught that to others.
Our bodies are full of electricity, aren't they?
Yes, sir. And we walk around inside this bioelectric field, this force field, and it's quite easily visible. If you look straight at somebody, you can't see it, and that's because the rods in the center of your eye are not as sensitive as the cones that are on the side of your eye. Those are the cells inside of your eye. So to see the etheric, you have to slightly look out of the side of your eye. And so what I would do is I would teach people to look with their peripheral vision, to become good at looking peripherally, and then you can see the energy of people walking along in the street.
And what's it look like?
It's this massive bubble of energy. It's moving unbelievably fast. It spikes and flares, and then you can watch it, and you'll see a guy walking along, and you'll see that bubble just jump right across the road and touch somebody else that's walking opposite side of the street.
A lot of times, out of the corner of my eye, I have seen objects or a blur or something. Is that possibly what I'm looking at?
Yes, sir. And one thing that we discovered many, many decades later was that there is a dimension that is to our left and right that is at 90 degrees to us. And that is absolutely the masters that ascended to heaven actually sort of shuffled off sideways because that's where heaven is. And it's literally arm's length away. These dimensions permeate our dimension.
And they're just always there.
They're always there. They're always there. And they're just at arm's length. It's not like out in space.
Now, when
There's another dimension that's below our feet, but I can talk about that later.
Okay, but when you say they're arm's length from everybody or in a certain spot?
Yeah, because these dimensions permeate our reality. For example, right, fractal mathematics, many of your listeners will be aware of fractal geometry and how beautiful it is, the mathematics of, say, Mandelbrot, say, or the Julia set. Well, fractals describe a mathematics that is in the spaces of our dimension. So it's between our length and breadth and height. And that's what fractal mathematics is, and that's what fractal geometry is. And these other worlds exist between our worlds, but like literally in the room. There's no distance. The spirit worlds are right here, say, for example.
Are there ways where you can almost put your physical arm into that other dimension?
Yes. Yes.
Would your arm disappear, or
yes.
It would?
No, it does. It does. It does. We've had experiences, George, where like 15 people dematerialized altogether from the waist up, and it lasted for 4 hours. And you could watch like literally pieces of their bodies disappear. It is the presence of this other world is here now, and it sounds really scary. And
it does.
It kind of is, but you don't actually go anywhere. It's just the solidity isn't real.
What happens if they can't come back?
We don't know. I don't know how to get an answer to that one.
Now that's
Don't
scary.
go back there. But we've never had anybody not come back. It's just that they're there, but like you put your hand up, and your hand disappears, and you're left just with a stump.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
You know,
We've now documented that more than, let's say, I'm guessing now, I don't want to exaggerate, but let's say more than 300 times and less than 500 times.
have you had cases where people have stuck their heads through this other dimension, through these doorways? What do they see on the other side, Stuart?
There are so many dimensions on the other side that you can't just say what did they see, because it's not like, well, now we're looking at the San Diego freeway, say, for example, okay? You can move in that dimension and actually travel through the physical plane. So, for example, on one journey, I went to, let's say, maybe more than 100 houses, and they were just suburban homes, and people were like having dinner or watching TV, or it was empty, or they were asleep, or there was a man in the yard bringing in boxes from his car or something. So in that world, you can blip around the physical world, but then in that world also are these massive dimensions like, say, inner worlds of nature, inner worlds of transdimensional beings, inner worlds of ghouls, seriously demonic inner worlds, and then angelic worlds, and then worlds that are beyond our comprehension that I'll try to explain later, but better not talk about it just yet.
Okay.
Better get warmed up first.
Well, let's use the dimension of you saw the houses and you saw other people.
Yeah.
I mean, were they actually physical, or were they...
Completely physical.
Okay. And were you physical when you were in there?
I don't know. I don't know what they saw. They may have seen nothing. But it was like, let's say, for example, moving, looking at a house in a street for 3 seconds while a guy took a box out of the back of his car and walked into the house. And then moving into another house in another street in another town, maybe even another country, and 4 people are having dinner at a table. Just moving through these houses, just observing incredibly ordinary, mundane events.
It sounds like you were probably invisible to them, but I'm not sure.
Possibly. But then again, you see, there's this other theory of theories that says there is no space, that everything is as close as your attention. In other words, you can bring anything up to your attention, and it comes in front of your mind's eye in those other worlds. In other words, that space is a complete illusion in those other worlds, so there is no distance.
Well, did they ever interact with you?
Yes.
They did. Tell me how.
What, the people that I saw?
Yeah.
Oh, a few times I've seen people turn and get really scared, and I've kind of gone, sorry, blessings, peace, love, and I've done my best to get away quick because it wasn't my intention to scare them,
So sometimes when we see strange things in this dimension, it could be others coming into our dimension.
Definitely. Oh, yeah, absolutely. The same way as we have managed to penetrate these other worlds over a period of like several decades, there are beings that are literally walking into this world. It sounds totally loony, but I can explain it to you, and it'll sound more credible as we go along.
Okay. Have you ever had, when you're talking about the people have been half in and half out, where you've seen the bottom part and the top is gone or something? Can you photograph that? Have you been able to do that?
Yes, we photographed it once. And actually, I sent your producer the photograph, so I don't know if you have it there, George, or not.
Oh, I do not have it here.
You don't? Okay.
We'll try to track it down. I know my webmaster does not have it.
Okay. Yeah, no, I could send you that. I sent it to your producer, Miss Lyon.
Yeah, Lisa.
Yeah.
Can you, will you have the ability to email us the photograph while we're on the air tonight?
I'm not sure.
During a commercial break or something?
Yeah, and it's possibly. I'd have to get my webman out of bed. I know he's already in bed. Your Miss Lyon has got it. Are you in touch with her?
Yeah, we'll call her, find out where it is.
Yeah, you call her. She has it. It's in an article called Men with Wings.
Okay.
And it was sent to her about a week ago.
All right. It's possible she didn't have it there, but we'll work on it. We'll get it. We'll find her. We'll find her. Men with Wings, huh?
The thing about it is that a couple of years ago, a new phenomena occurred that we call the morph. And the morph looks like dry rain. When you're looking at a wall, the wall starts to become hazy looking. and these lines pass in front of it that are very, very fast moving, and that's hence this idea of dry rain. And then the wall starts to go soapy looking, and the floor goes soapy looking. And as this morph descends, it sort of comes down from above, and it never reaches more than about 2 or 3 feet off the ground. But once you put your hand up inside this phenomena, then that's when your hand dematerializes.
Can you feel anything?
Yes, yes. It's a sort of intense sense of sort of excitement. Sometimes it's accompanied by intense feelings of bliss. It's like completely angelic.
Do you remember the movie Poltergeist? Did you ever see that movie?
Yeah, I vaguely do, yes. That's where she's looking through the TV, is that?
Yeah, and then she somehow got pulled into a dimension.
Yes.
And, they could hear her voice, like, where are you, Mommy? Where are you, Mommy?
Yeah,
and she was gone, and they finally got her. They threw a rope in there.
They got her back out again.
And they pulled her out, and she came out with all this slime on her and stuff like that. Does that ever happen?
Yes. The very first time the dematerialization happened, George, was at I was having a meditation group at my house, and suddenly these fractal patterns began to appear on people's skin, like little geometrics. So, like, for example, there'd be like all sorts of, let's say, very small little green squares, and shimmering, and the green squares would morph and become little red hearts. And they would morph again and become little blue stars. And each person in the room, there were 15 people in the room, began to have these patterns like come over their face, leopard patterns and colors and geometrics and squares and so on, incredibly, intensely beautiful. And this went on for about an hour, and then as these patterns were going on people's skin, then what happened was that they started to go through this dematerialization process. And so little bits would disappear, let's say a corner of a person's head, or their arm, or a shoulder, let's say.
Now, if you touch that part of their body, would you feel it?
Yes, well, this is what we did. After a little while, we realized that we could put our fingers inside each other's heads.
Oh, my God.
Now, well, this is where the slimy part comes, okay? We started doing it like children, just laughing, and we found we could put our finger right inside another person's forehead. And when you pull the finger out, it comes out very elongated, which suggests that it's come from a place that is going faster than time, and it comes out slimy looking.
Now, did you ever have the slimy stuff analyzed, by any chance?
No, we didn't. It was sort of a spur of the moment thing, but it lasted 4 hours. And towards the end of the 4 hours, we found we could put our hands inside another person's body up to the elbow. So we got more courageous as we went along.
Boy, next time that happens, you got to get that material and get it to a laboratory. Who knows what it would be?
You mean like to take
like a sample?
Swab of the finger?
Yeah.
Geez, I never thought of that. The thing about this was that it happened spontaneously one day to a group of us. There were 15. It then happened many, many times later, but at that particular day when this happened, I mean, we were just not thinking scientifically. We were more like agog,
Oh, I understand.
Yeah, watching what was going on.
These other dimensions,
yes, sir.
Could you also call them other universes, or is that not the case?
Yeah, well, the thing about it is the many universe theory, suggests that there's as many universes as there are observers of our universe.
Oh, correct, yeah.
So it depends really on what you want to use as a definition of a universe. Your life is your universe, and my life's my universe, and we're collectively in the human experience. So yes, I would say there was as many universes as there were observers of the universe,
now, Stuart,
and more.
I was really interested in what you said about the ghoulish or the demonic sections or dimensions that are out there.
Yes.
Might that be what so many religious people have termed hell?
Yes, definitely. Yes, it is hell, complete hell.
Does an evil person go there, or do they have to capture you? How do you end up there?
Well, one thing that we think we discovered, George, we think we've discovered is that the spirit worlds that people theoretically go to after death, that, say, famous spirit mediums on TV, channel, from the spirit world information,
sure,
to the people that are still living.